and welcome to Ag PhD. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for joining us today. Well, on today's show, we're going to talk about one of the worst diseases you can get. It's Sclerotinia white mold. We'll give you some tips on how to stop this tough disease, or at least suppress it on your farm this year.
Well, what sometimes looks like a disease on corn leaves is really the symptoms of a nutrient deficiency. We're going to talk about some of the common nutrient deficiencies that we're seeing across the country and what you can do to stop it.
We've got another Weed of the Week coming up later in the show, and it's one that we fight on our own farm, so we'll tell you how we stop it. But first, here's this week's Farm Basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
We invite you to join us for the Ag PhD Field Day. It's coming up on our farm Thursday, July 26th.
Yeah, it's a one-day event. You probably caught that already. Hey, it's only one day. Yeah, it is, but it's an action-packed, tremendous one day. And there's so many reasons why we do it in one day, because we want to be really excited. We want to have lots of energy for you, and we want to bring in some of the best farmers, literally from all over the world.
Speaking of bringing those great farmers in, that's the highlight for me every year, because we do bring in world record people for corn, for soybeans, for wheat, for barley, not only to speak to you, but also they're going to have plots that they will have managed all season long on our farm, so you can listen to what they say, but you can also see what they do right there in the field.
Well, there's no doubt the people are the most important thing. And then you talk about these plots, Brian, there's new traits that aren't even on the market yet. There's new fertility products, new crop protection products that you can take a look at maybe even a couple of years before they're going to be on the market. So you can start to formulate a plan in your mind, at least, of, hey, there's some cool things coming that could really help my profitability on the farm.
We also get a lot of farmers that ask, hey, I'm coming from halfway across the country. My spouse wants to come along, but I don't know if my spouse is super interested in looking at all your plots and talking to all these high-yield farmers and everything else. What can my spouse do? What can my kids do? Well, we actually have a bunch of kid activities. We have other entertainment throughout the day, including Molly B. We have the Farm Babe. We have some grain marketing sessions for not only farmers, but also for farmers' spouses, or maybe somebody who's managing that grain marketing. We've got estate planning, a number of different things. You'll have a great time whether you're a farmer, you're a spouse, you're a child. It's the Ag PhD Field Day. It's lots of family fun.
We also have a pretty big equipment ride and drive area. So if you want to ride and drive some of the newest equipment on the market, which, by the way, there will be some international product launches at our field day, which is really cool. But you can get in some of this equipment, drive it in the field, and see how it works.
And just see live demonstrations of a number of different pieces of equipment as well.
You also can see different irrigation technologies, whether it's subsurface drip tape, subsurface irrigation through tile, or even overhead irrigation, and compare how those look across the farm.
One other thing that's kind of neat this year is rural radio. That's Sirius XM channel 147. They're launching a new radio show that'll be on each weekday right after ours. It's the Shark Farmer Radio Show, and Rob Sharkey, the host, is going to have his very first live broadcast at the Field Day, Thursday, July 26th.
Well, there is so much to see and do at the Ag PhD Field Day, Thursday, July 26th, right on our farm. You can sign up and get all the details at agphd.com.
The other thing you'll find at agphd.com is information on weeds like our Weed of the Week. Can you identify this tough weed?
Unlock your nutrient investment with Quick Roots technology. It contains two powerful microbes that can help free nutrients bound in your soil, which can improve access to key nutrients for healthy crops, N, P, and K. Applying Quick Roots technology to seed can lead to improved root and shoot growth, increased yield potential, and maximized nutrient investment. See how you can make your fertilizer dollar go further at monsantobioag.com/quickroots.
If you're looking to expand your farm's grain handling, you want everything to be fast and efficient. The Quick Belt from Norwood Sales is your all-around grain handling solution. Our conveyor-based system uses an 18-inch belt and a 10-inch tube, which minimizes seed damage while moving more than 10,000 bushels an hour. That's fast enough to fill a semi in 6 minutes. Plus, our hood is designed to gently direct the flow of grain straight down, keeping your crop in condition. Keep your grain and your farm moving with the Quick Belt from Norwood Sales.
Leading the charge in strip tillage for more than a decade, the Soil Warrior brings the future to your farm today.
And how about the big man, Pro Germinator?
Yeah, this guy's got some experience in the field. But look at his stats. You can't argue with those kind of results.
You're right. I know a lot of teams wishing their phosphorus player had those kind of numbers.
Right, but this guy's not just phosphorus. He's got the nitrogen, the potassium, the micros. All those just add up to his phosphorus game.
And his game is good.
The Guardian Air Twin Spray Nozzle from Hypro produces a twin spray pattern with air-inducted droplets for superior coverage, even in dense canopies. Be effective and efficient with your spray application this season with the Guardian Air Twin. Hypro, helping you spray better.
Your planter is the single most important piece of equipment on your farm, because without a uniform stand, you can't reach maximum yield. That's why Harvest International set out to design a planter that takes advantage of the newest innovations in planter technology. Built tough for high speed and integrated with the latest precision enhancements, Harvest International planters ensure every seed you plant today puts more in your bin at harvest. Harvest International, planting the future.
Sclerotinia white mold. On our own farm, let me just tell you what happened to us last year. We had about 1,000 acres of soybeans. We actually, fortunately, had lots of corn last year. But anyway, on 1,000 acres of soybeans, we had about 20 acres, including the field that I'm standing in right here, 20 acres out of 1,000 that yielded almost zero. We were going along in some spots 80, 90 bushel beans. Zero, okay? That's a huge deal. You think about the lost income there. If I lose even 60 bushels per acre, I lose $600 per acre. White mold can absolutely devastate soybeans and many other crops, so we're going to talk about some control strategies today.
All right, first of all, let's start with some of the cultural methods that you may use for control. You may say, well, what about tillage, Darren? How does tillage work? Because honestly, that's what our grandparents would have done, is let's just do some deep tillage, try and bury the sclerotia. And you can, but that sclerotia can survive in the soil for a long, long time. So tillage before the crop, you know, it's a temporary fix. It can maybe lessen the pressure a little bit. I'd prefer to leave all that sclerotia on the surface and hope that it breaks down with soil microbes or breaks down with sunlight and weather and those kinds of things. I'll take my chances that way. We also have some guys that say I use tillage with cultivation in crop. So I'm going to cultivate in between the rows and try and knock out those little mushrooms that are going to form that will eventually shoot out the white mold spores. Boy, you would have to be so fussy on timing to get that, and you'd probably have to cultivate multiple times. Now, if you say, well, if I can get that first flush taken care of, if I get some late season, it's not going to hurt me as bad, I won't argue with you about that, but still, it's not going to be an effective means of controlling it 100%.
Now you might say, Brian, why should I listen to you guys on control strategies when you didn't even control it on your own farm? Well, let me just tell you real quick what happened to us. This disease is expensive to control. The best product to spray for a fungicide is Endura. It's $35 an acre. Last summer, I didn't want to spend $35 an acre because I didn't think we had any chance of having white mold. Typically, when we're very dry, we don't have a white mold problem. Well, last summer, we were very dry. If you would have come a couple days before our field day in late July, you would have seen everything looking brown. We happened to luck out and get 7/10 of an inch of rain right before the field day, so stuff kind of greened up a little bit for the field day. But my point here is we went 7 weeks in the middle of the summer with a grand total of 1.2 inches of rain. That's not much, but here's what happened. We're getting such production out of our soybeans now. We've handled fertility and a lot of these other things. We had beans that were over shoulder high, some of the tallest beans we'd ever seen. Well, when you have beans that are that huge, there's a microclimate in those soybean fields, and I'm not going to make this mistake again. We absolutely are going to treat for white mold every year, at least in the spots that have been bad before. If I look back at our yield map from 2 years earlier, from 2015, the exact same spots that had a little white mold in 2015 had a lot of white mold in 2017. I also didn't think this was going to be a big problem because we'd sprayed Contans in the fall of 2015, right after soybean harvest, just like we had been told to do. That's a biological that literally eats the sclerotia, and I thought, oh, we're in good shape. Well, we saw no response from that. And then we talked to the manufacturer about, well, why didn't we see a response out of Contans? And they said, well, did you keep the product frozen until you went out to spray it? And I said, what? Frozen? I didn't know it had to be frozen. It was sitting in our warehouse for a month. And they said, well, that Contans was dead then. I go, oh no, I spent $25 an acre on something that was dead. Yep, you did. And this is just a good lesson. With these biological products, you gotta make sure you talk to the manufacturer and find out what handling characteristics does it have. Contans, well, I don't love the fact that it has to be kept frozen until right before I'm gonna spray it. I have seen very good results in the past with certain trials out of Contans. Didn't work for us, but now I know why.
All right, so there are a few things that you can do. You can't just throw up your hands and say, well, I can't stop white mold. What you can do is you can make multiple applications of fungicide. Like Brian was talking about fungicide just a little bit. Hey, Endura is the best of these products, but there are a number of different chemistries that can be used, and they're from different families too. So you can get out and start at R1, right at that first bloom. You have to be really fussy about that. Don't wait until, oh, we already have pods out there. Well, guess what? You've had a lot of blooms now that have dried up, and that's where this sclerotia can get in. So we need to make sure that we're watching that. And then you're going to spray about every couple of weeks, probably 2, if not 3 applications, depending on weather and what kind of white mold pressure that you've got. The other thing you can do before flowering is use Cobra. Many of the university trials that we've looked at, and even some of the farmer trials that we've been a part of, we've seen better results from Cobra than other things. Now, we can debate about, well, is it that we dropped a few leaves, or is there some chemical thing going on inside the plant? Either way, it's reduced the amount of white mold that that plant has had, and that's improved yields in those situations. So that's another thing that can be done. Finally, I want to talk about your fertility program for your farm. And yes, so often the problems that we have get back to fertility. You think about it just like us as humans. If we have better nutrition, we're better able to fight off disease.
All right, so specifically here, we want to talk to you today about manganese. What are your manganese levels in the soil? What are your manganese levels in your plant tissue? Ideally, what we're looking for on a DTPA soil test, not a Mehlich 3, but a DTPA, is more than 20 parts per million. Now, to some degree, this has something to do with soil pH from what we've seen. So if you have soil pH above 7, we want you to try to drive that pH down a little bit. That'll help with your manganese availability. The other thing is just putting manganese out there, period. What we find on most farms is they focus on NP and K over the years, maybe sulfur recently, but they haven't addressed manganese for years, and they've been pulling it out of the soil for years. Well, there is an absolute correlation between good manganese levels and lower Sclerotinia white mold levels.
You can certainly try doing some foliar applications with chelated manganese in your crop. I would track that with plant tissue tests too to see if you're actually getting that manganese into the crop, and then see what kind of difference that makes for white mold. We have not done those studies on our farm with the foliar applications like that, but it's something that we're looking into as well.
Well, once again, Sclerotinia white mold can be a really bad problem on your farm. Just make sure you're getting it addressed, and getting it addressed early. Right at first flower is when your first treatment needs to be. Well, another thing that's important if you want top yields is controlling our weed of the week. We'll tell you how to stop this weed coming up later in the show.
Are you looking for an easy way to apply dry powdered products to your stored grain? Do you want to use the applicator recommended by industry leaders for products like Diacon D and other dry powder products? Changing Time CT applicators successfully apply a diversity of products quickly, easily, and accurately. The innovative CT applicators are designed to give you the most accurate application of products such as talc, inoculants, fertilizers, and other dry products. For commercial use or on the farm, you need the applicator industry leaders are using. CT applicators for the changing times.
Your planter is the single most important piece of equipment on your farm, because without a uniform stand, you can't reach maximum yield. That's why Harvest International set out to design a planter that takes advantage of the newest innovations in planter technology. Built tough for high speed and integrated with the latest precision enhancements, Harvest International planters ensure every seed you plant today puts more in your bin at harvest. Harvest International, planting the future.
Morton is eager to make the building you've always dreamed of a reality. Visit us online at mortonbuildings.com.
With the success of the Case IH Steiger Quad Track and Magnum Road Track tractors, it's no secret why Case IH is the leader of the track. So it wasn't surprising when the competition started imitating us.
Because Case IH offered the first 5-axle design to give you more power to the ground, with less berming and compaction, all to help you be more productive.
Still, we're flattered. In fact, if we weren't already red, we'd be blushing.
Now is a really good time of year to walk out in your cornfields, and one of the things, unfortunately, you're probably going to see is a nutrient deficiency, and hopefully not too many nutrient deficiencies, but you might see a number of different ones out there. We want to talk today about what you may see out in the field and how you can identify that problem for sure.
First of all, if you see leaves that don't look right, if they're not perfect, investigate a little further. See if you've got a disease out there, or if you may have one of these nutrient deficiencies. We've got a great nutrient deficiencies app that you can take a look at. Just search for Ag PhD in the Apple Store or in the Google Play Store. Take a look and see what you got for choices there. This is one that you may want to consider keeping on your smartphone. I know I certainly do when I'm out in the field, because if I'm looking at something, I say, man, it looks kind of like this. Now I've got something to judge by and see what I'm looking at. If I'm looking at the top part of the plant versus the bottom, that can give you a place to start. The reason that I would say that is because some nutrients are going to be mobile within the plant and others are immobile. If they're mobile within the plant, that means when I start to run short in my new growth, well, I pull it out of those lower leaves. So the lower leaves will show the deficiency. Now, if I've got something that's immobile within the plant, like many of the micronutrients and sulfur, well, they're going to stay in those lower leaves, and the top leaves are the ones that are going to show the nutrient deficiency.
All right, even for me, a lot of times I don't trust what I'm seeing. So I look at it and I say, well, I think it's a sulfur deficiency, but maybe it's a zinc deficiency. I just take the plants and send them in for analysis. That's really what I encourage you to do, just to double check to make sure you've got the right thing. Because if you think it's sulfur and it turns out to be zinc, and you apply a bunch of sulfur and nothing happens, you go, uh-oh, and now you're 2 weeks down the road or something like that. Okay, so now you really suffered from that zinc deficiency that you happen to have. So yes, I'm all for going out and scouting the field and trying to figure this out yourself, using our app to look at the pictures and compare them and that type of thing. But I really encourage you, send the affected plants in for analysis, and then you can verify what's really going on.
Let's look at one of these things though, Brian, that is pretty commonly misdiagnosed out in fields, and I want to talk about it because it's really important. When you look at the lower leaves on a corn plant and they start turning brown, so often farmers will say, well, I'm firing. I just haven't had rain recently, and if you think you've got firing at the bottom of the plant, take a closer look at the leaves. If we see browning around the outside edges of the leaf, oftentimes that's a potassium deficiency. We're running short in a nutrient. Or if we're browning starting at the tip of the leaf and in a V-shaped pattern moving up that midrib, well, we're likely short of nitrogen. See, when a crop is short of one or more nutrients, it becomes a water waster. Because how do plants get in a nutrient like nitrogen? Well, they suck water in. So when the plant is short of nitrogen, what does it do? It just starts pulling in water, and pulling in water, hoping to get that food or the nitrogen that it needs. If it's short of nitrogen, well, it just wasted a whole bunch of water trying to get the nitrogen.
One comment I would make along those lines is we see these deficiencies in spots in fields. So if Currently, you're just applying the same exact rate of fertilizer all across an entire field. Or let's just say you've done that because you only pulled one soil sample in the entire field. I just really encourage you, start setting up your fields in grids or zones, something like that, and put the fertilizer where it's needed and don't apply it where it's not needed. What I'm getting at here is you may have an area of the field that, let's say, has lower organic matter. For whatever reason, it's a good producing area, but it has low organic matter, so it doesn't have a lot of free nitrogen coming available. Maybe that area does need more nitrogen. You also, chances are, have many areas of your farm that could need some more potassium. And really, it's that yellowing on the outside edge of the leaf that I see most commonly. That's potassium deficiency. We want you not only to get your parts per million level up there, we need you to get your base saturation K percentage up there at least into the 4 to 8% range, and then that yellowing will go away. You'll find out that you have better stalks and better grain quality, and you'll have higher yields.
And when you talk about that yellowing going away, Brian, that's building up that soil program and focusing on the next crop you're going to put out there. You can foliar feed with a lot of these nutrients. You can get them into the plant. The problem is the yield damage has already been done. The hit has already been taken. You've lost yield. That's fine. You just have to call a spade a spade. I lost yield, but I'm not letting it happen to me again. Now, doing nothing about those spots in your field, hey, you're going to keep losing yield in those same areas for the rest of your farming career. So get after it. Figure out what's happening in those spots, figure out if you have a nutrient deficiency, and get it addressed.
The biggest key is you've got to get out in your fields and take a look at, do I have problems or is everything looking great? And while you're out in the fields, you may see our Weed of the Week. We'll tell you how to stop it coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is brought to you by Dow AgroSciences. Finish the fight against tough weeds with the Enlist Weed Control System.
Weeds are tough, but we're tougher. With unrivaled weed control, reduced drift, and near zero volatility. So, who's tough now?
Our Weed of the Week is common knotweed.
Now, this is not one of those weeds that you say, wow, I haven't heard about that one. It's going to be a big problem for me and rob lots of yield on my farm. Hold on. This is one you've probably seen along the edge of the field, or if you've overgrazed a pasture or something like that. It's not normally one that spreads over a lot of the crop ground.
With common knotweed, it's kind of like a lot of other weeds out there. If we can get a good crop canopy, no big problem. That's usually why we don't see it out in crop ground, but where we do see it is where the grass has gotten too short. So if that does happen to you and you need to control this weed, usually we're talking about Freelix. That's the new 2,4-D that's got low volatility. Other than that, dicamba certainly can work. There are a lot of other products that can work, like in a burn down, for example, you could certainly do Roundup. This weed is not resistant to Roundup yet, but it's going to take a pretty good dose.
Yeah, I've really liked in front of corn. Verdict has been excellent. It's done a nice job burning it down. Post-emerge, I like Status the best, but we've had good luck with the HPPDs, tank mixed with atrazine as well. In soybeans, you know, that burn down is going to be important. We've done a nice job with our 3 pre-program, holding it back and not really letting it get started. In crop, either one of the approved dicamba products for Xtend beans or Liberty have been really effective. And in wheat, Sharpen for a burn down and Husky over the top has worked well.
Well, that's it for our Weed of the Week, common knotweed, but stay tuned. Iron Talk is coming up next.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep, as well as install 3 or 4-inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
Let's take a look at our picks for the championship season. We've got 10-34-0.
No. I don't want to talk about them. I want to talk about this Agro Liquid team. Take a look at this lineup. They got it all. The talent, their players can meet any challenge on any field. The coaching staff, the best I've seen.
So that's your pick? No discussions?
Nope. Agro Liquid is the team. They're going all the way to the championship.
Unlock your nutrient investment with Quick Roots technology. It contains two powerful microbes that can help free nutrients bound in your soil, which can improve access to key nutrients for healthy crops, N, P, and K. Applying Quick Roots technology to seed can lead to improved root and shoot growth, increased yield potential, and maximized nutrient investment. See how you can make your fertilizer dollar go further at monsantobioag.com/quickroots.
I know a lot of people that have them, and I don't know anybody that doesn't like their Morton building.
The crew was really, in my book, top-notch.
The quality of this building is second to none, and they make sure before you walk away that you're happy.
This is my dream barn. I think it ended up looking even better than I thought it would.
People love it. When they get in here, they're just in awe.
Morton Buildings, for work, for life, for generations.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
With the success of the Case IH Steiger Quad Track and Magnum Road Track tractors, it's no secret why Case IH is the leader of the track. So it wasn't surprising when the competition started imitating us.
Because Case IH offered the first 5-axle design to give you more power to the ground, with less berming and compaction, all to help you be more productive.
Still, we're flattered. In fact, if we weren't already red, we'd be blushing.
Spray drift is an important thing to manage no matter what you're spraying. We'll talk about ways to protect yourself and your neighbors in today's Iron Talk. When it comes to drift, there are several factors that lead to more potential for physical drift of your spray particles. Wind is the one that most people focus on, but other than not spraying on windy days, we can't really control that. Knowing that almost every day has some degree of wind, maybe it's 3 or 5 miles per hour, we still need to manage it. First of all, your spray nozzles make a huge difference, but it's a balancing act. On one hand, you need great coverage with droplets landing all over your target weeds. For that, you'd like a flat fan tip with smaller droplets. However, smaller droplets can blow away easier, so you may need to lean more towards a nozzle that makes coarser and larger droplets with some crop protection products. The height of your spray boom above the crop makes a big difference too. If your boom is 3 or 4 feet above the crop, you're much more prone to drift. The best recommendation, depending on your tips and spacings, is to have the boom 20 inches above the crop. You still get your full spray pattern, and you're the least exposed to wind. Faster operating speeds can be an issue too. You want to cover a lot of acres, but running faster leads to more drift potential, so these choices need to be made as well. The guideline is to never run above 15 miles per hour. If you could go slower, well, that would be even better. Finally, maintain a safe buffer around sensitive crops. With some products like the new dicamba herbicides, for example, this is right on the label. Play it extra safe on field borders with wind, spray tips, boom height, and sprayer operation speed. Follow these tips, and spray drift can be managed properly on your farm. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now back to the show.
That's our time for today, but before we go, we want to invite you to tune into the Ag PhD radio show. You'll find us on SiriusXM Channel 147 each weekday at 2 p.m. Central.
And don't miss the next Ag PhD TV show. We'll have another Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.